Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, we will be talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, those 1-5 Jacksonville Jaguars. They're tied with the Tennessee Titans in the basement in the AFC South. And I figured it would be great to bring on a couple guests that dive into, pun intended, the AFC South, more specifically, the Jacksonville Jaguars every week. That would be the student of the game, Mr. Kyle Nash, and Big Cat Country's own Travis Holmes, a.k.a. the Duval Dive. They're in the house for this episode. What's going on, fellas?
Champion, how cool is it that people say the Duval Dive and now we're a package deal? This is like Karl Malone and John Stockton over here. I do throw you the ball a lot on the show. That's fair.
I don't think I want to be Karl Malone, but I understand the reference. I got
you. you can hit free throws better. I'm sure it's all good.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Travis. I was like, I don't know about that one, but yeah. But okay. But on this episode, we will be talking Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, a lot of hopes for a better start to the season. However, they sit at 1-5. We will get into this episode. But before we get into that, we do have the Get Off Your Chest segment. Now, we've talked quarterback play on this show, I should say, plenty of times when it relates to the AFC South and any other quarterbacks around. We've talked the good, we've talked the bad, but I don't think we've talked the ugly. And the ugly is right now is Deshaun Watson playing quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Now, for those that don't remember, there was a bidding war for Mr. Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to call him by his nickname on the show. We're just going to call him Deshaun Watson. Okay. All right. But there was a bidding war for Mr. Deshaun Watson. And, of course, the Cleveland Browns won and gave him a guaranteed contract, $230 million. Kyle, did you like that? I kind of borrowed from you on that one.
$130 million. Yes, no iotas. I got the pinky ready to go and everything. We're good.
But yeah, ever since they have paid him that money, I don't think things have worked out. It just looks like, he's a square peg and you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It just doesn't quite look the same. I mean, he's a guy that likes to be in the pocket and be a gunslinger, and they're an offense that likes to run the football. Those two just don't mesh. And it looks like it every single time on the field. He's not a timing passer at all times. No, he's not that type of guy. He's a guy that creates and does a few things with his feet along with his arm. And it just seems like over time it just does not work. It has not worked, and it probably will not work. And they're tied to him pretty much for however long they want to pay this contract, unless they want to eat the money. And then maybe put Jameis Winston out there and see if he can eat a W. Yeah, for those that don't know, you watch film and look it up. You'll understand what I'm talking about there. But yeah, but I had to talk about the good. I do talk about the good. I do talk about the bad. But Deshaun Watson at quarterback for Cleveland Browns is pretty doggone ugly. That's my thoughts on the Get Off Your Chest segment. You got any comments on that one?
Man, listen, you mentioned the physical traits. I'll get this one out the way quick and then let Travis run with the rest of the ball with the mechanics. But for me, I had seen Deshaun Watson's first action since the whole scandal took place. And, there's no real way to massage my way around any other way than to say this. He was mentally hit. I did it, General. I was mentally hit from moment one when he stepped into Everbank Stadium. I know it was just a preseason game, but to see him get booed in Jacksonville, of all places, and then him come out the way he did, I could tell from my seat in the press box that he was struck by that. His performance also showed it. His performance has continued to show it. I mean, I don't like to be the guy that point out a dude getting injured made a team better, a la Geno Smith with the Jets back when that happened and Fitzmagic almost got them to the playoffs. But this is also what happened when the immortal Joe Flacco came in and did what he did. Heck, he almost did it a second time to the Jags there. If the defense doesn't hold up, or rather, if Cam Little doesn't kick that final field goal because the defense wasn't holding up with Colts Joe Flacco, right? So I say all that to say Deshaun Watson's mental state isn't designed to fill in, and I think that's where the struggles really began, and these other things with timing and all that kind of fell into place.
I think I agree with you, man. I think at the end of the day, I viewed it a lot like that whole Tiger Woods situation, and I hate to have to link those guys in one way or another. But Deshaun Watson, after being out of football for an extended period of time, Tiger Woods, after being out of golf for an extended period of time for whatever their off the field issues, ended up having to come back and just weren't. They never became that same guy. They were a shell of that same guy. You add in the differences in the offense, the fact that one offense runs significantly better from under center. Deshaun Watson he's a better guy from shotgun, generally speaking. He's a spread quarterback kind of guy who did way better when you had a coach that basically kind of leaned into that spread offense that he ran in college. All of that put together, it just seemed like a weird, odd fit. Like they were just like, hey, that's the best quarterback on the market. I want to get that guy. Forget all the football IQ. Forget all the football guys that say why schematically that might not work because we are better here than here. It just didn't work. And for all just purely for football reasons, for those reasons, it didn't work because, again, one guy just didn't work well in one system, even though that was the entire system your Cleveland Browns offense had already been created around. And you're kind of stuck with that huge albatross of a contract that's around your neck and trying to figure out what that's going to look like.
And quickly, Travis, I have to add this. Your Tiger Woods example led me to this, too. It's almost like in both those same cases, that time off that you're talking about, the previous injuries and health stuff, Tiger Woods in particular with his knee and his hip and all that. And Deshaun had taken some hits, too, in his day. And, age, I guess, had more time to kind of catch up to him as they kind of got cold, for lack of a better way to put it. When you've been playing for a long time with your kids or out with your buddies, this is age independent, right? But, when you've been playing for a while, you sit down and you sit just a little too long, going back to play just get a little bit difficult. Now, imagine doing that over the course of a longer period of time, as Tiger Woods and Deshaun Watson both did. And I think that's a factor as well. I think there have been a couple of times, as you describe it, General, when he's trying to do something physical and he reaches back in the quiver like Hawkeye and then realizes he's out of arrows to do something physical like that, So, I think there's an element of that as well.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, it ain't working. And looking at the clock, the time is about up.
Would you turn down that kind of a money, even if it's not a great scheme for you?
No.
I know. I know. We don't like Deshaun because he's a fan. And that's understandable. But on the field, I'm not turning. If somebody's willing to offer me, you offer me $299,000. Like it ain't got to be in the millions. I'm probably gonna say, hey, what I gotta do? Hold that clipboard, or I gotta be terrible on football. I gotta embarrass myself on national TV. That's fine. You paying? That check clearing? Cool. And unfortunately, that's like people love to hate him for all the right reasons. But for football reasons, hey man, if that check clearing, I'm showing up, and that's kind of what it came down to. Unfortunately, dumb owners made dumb decisions.
I'm never mad at that.
He got paid to make sure he had a different kind of happy ending, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, jeez. With that, we're done with the Get It Off Your Chest segment for this episode. And we're going to move on to the next segment, which... what you get
when I'm on this show, General. Come on.
All right, we're going to move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course... Now 1-5 after a 35-16 loss to the Chicago Bears in London. Oh, boy. What went wrong? There's a lot that went wrong. I mean, you see Eric Armstead doing bear crawl drills in the middle of the game. You see Cole Kmet, he's running full speed, and everyone else is kind of, jogging, doing those different things. Boy, you see a lot of things going on. You see Gabe Davis being as usual, he had 2 touchdown catches. Let's say that, by the way. He had 2 touchdown receptions, but, he's being the guy that I thought he would be in Jacksonville. But, so in your opinion, this game, what went wrong? or what didn't go wrong. I would say that just leave it that way.
I mean, I gotta set the table for you.
You want all right. So then what do we? How much time you got, buddy? What went wrong? Everything went wrong for the Jacksonville Jaguars after the second series. So the first two series, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense had 2 3-and-outs. I mean, the party was starting. They was prepping the confetti. They was getting the champagne, glasses in the locker room, clean. And then life came at them fast. The scripted plays stopped. So they're done with those first 15 to 20 plays, for the offense and for the defense. For both offenses essentially. And the Bears started running up tempo. They started running more 11 personnel, more one running back, one tight end personnel, so 3 receivers on the field. And very quickly on that drive, the Jaguars realized, oh, Ronald Darby can't cover DJ Moore one-on-one, and that's not a knock.
The general have his. You called that.
I know, but it's not to say Ronald Darby's a bad cornerback. He's just not going to be the guy who's the guy. And he was never supposed to be the guy initially. It's just Tyson Campbell's injured because he's always injured. And we paid him knowing he's always injured. And nevertheless, these are decisions were made, mistakes were made, we're here. So nevertheless, Ronald Darby ended up having to be your guy. He ends up getting 3 penalties on the drive. The team ends up getting 4 penalties on the drive, 3 of them on third down, just giving the drive away. Chicago scores a touchdown in the game 7-3, and for the most part, they never looked back after that because they never stopped running 11 personnel, never stopped running that hurry up offense, and they were having a lot of success doing the RPO run game. Moving on for the rest of the game, they got 5 touchdowns on the remaining 7 drives. So that tells you everything they need to know.
It could have been worse too. If Andre Cisco doesn't get the pick in the first half, they're going into the locker room down 3 score probably. I mean, this is disaster of the highest order defensively. I agree with you. And listen, the very same Andre Cisco talking about, hey, I see a lot of
whoa. Don't go into that one yet. I got something for that one yet. I got something for that one. but you can keep talking, but just leave that one alone for a minute.
We'll say this more on that later. But I'm glad
there we go.
Do that when he got the interception. We'll build on it later as the general has gave me orders to charge a different direction. So I'm happy to continue to call out. This O-line was supposed to have a chance in Hades against the Bears front. There's no way, and I knew it going into it. I'm so sick of writing about the keys to the game every week on Fans First Sports Network, and including the Jags O-line. I went a different direction. Okay, I just said, listen, the Bears D-line is good. I had to do something to flip the script because Travis is with that. Now, I will give credit to Evan Ingram coming back strong, 10 out of 10 targets, over 100 yards receiving. Would have been nice if we didn't fall to football, but, hey, details. But listen, you fantasy owners out there, you'll be glad I recommended Evan Ingram before the season for you. Just throwing that out there.
Okay.
Oh boy, yeah. We're gonna go in a little bit.
Passes yet? We forgot to mention drop touchdown passes, Travis. 4 of those. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna start with the offense. Mr. Trevor Lawrence, 23-35, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And usually I would say something about Trevor Lawrence, but I don't even want to say anything about him because the running game was non-existent. It was 20 carries for 68 yards. Yes, that is not a stat line for one player. That is a stat line for an entire offense. 20 carries, 68 yards. Okay, what is going on there? I mean, I know last week, of course, against the Colts, I know the Colts have had issues stopping the run, but they kind of cleaned that up. Then, of course, Tank Bigsby comes out, does his thing. This week, it just seemed like everybody who lined back there couldn't get anything going. The offensive line couldn't get a surge. I mean, wow. That's all I can say is just wow.
Well, this is what happened.
I'm gonna let Kyle talk about offensive line play, so we can start there.
This is exactly what happens when a defense has their starting guys in the game. Okay, no DeForest Buckner, you can run on the Colts. There is a ton of history with that. You who drive the bus touring the AFC South, General, have seen the Titans do the very same thing. Derrick Henry, Tajay Spears, Britney Spears, whoever. They're getting yards if DeForest Buckner ain't in the game with the Colts, period. My dude Grover Stewart over there, listen, he's good, but him kind of being in and out of the lineup doing his best Fularantu Fatukasi impression. Sorry, big man, I said what I said. I love you too much, but you need to stay on the field too. Like, I know you're a Texan now and all of that. It's still true, but the punchline big. The Bears do not have those same problems. The Bears defensive line doesn't seem to get hurt. They seem to cause pain. And that's exactly what you saw here. This offensive line is time and again, just going back to goodness, how far? Like 22, maybe a little beyond. All I'll say is this. I know I'm being told Ezra Cleveland is an improvement, and he is. I kind of think he is. Is he enough along with Mitch Morris in the middle? No. And Surf, he's been struggling for a minute. There's a reason key Jacksonville media were calling for Fuaga in the draft and having him come in as a rookie and all that. That obviously didn't happen. I like my man Anton. Seems to not be doing as good at the tackle spot as he was as a rookie, which is interesting, but he's kind of shoring it up. And I was against the Cam Robinson extension years ago. Travis is my witness. I was preaching against that hard. And Walker Little seems to have disappeared off the earth as his backup or what of that. So, yeah, the buzzsaw certainly took place to cut through any hope of running the football, even though we were told in the offseason by Doug Pederson and Trent Baalke that they were aiming to be more physical. Well, we didn't get that, did we, Travis?
Hey, Travis, before you go, I've got to say, Walker definitely came up a little. There we go. But go ahead, Travis.
I should have known that was coming. I blame me. I should have been ready for that.
Wow. All right. So, I mean, we had a 7-3 game. Basically, late in the second quarter. So, I mean, you're talking 3 minutes late in the second quarter. You still have a 7-3 game. I got to ask the obvious question of why Tank Bixby only had 5 carries in the first half of the game. He only ended with 7 carries. So we know that Travis Etienne had his hamstring injury that occurred in this game. Per Doug Pederson earlier this morning, he's going to be week to week at this point. So it's quite possible that we might see, a lot more Dearness Johnson, or we may even see Keelan Robinson activated from the IR, the rookie kick returner running back option. But nevertheless, we thought that the Chicago Bears have been very susceptible to the run in every single game this season outside of the Texans game. Nearly every running back either had more than 100 yards or was approaching that 100-yard mark. Even the Carolina Panthers, they just stopped running because they were getting the doors, the brakes beat off of them. But that was on 13 carries for Chuba Hubbard. So all right, cool. Jaguars, you're going to run the ball. They didn't do that. They legitimately didn't do that. And the worst part about all that is I can't even necessarily blame the play calling because you have 4 touchdowns dropped by your offense. And that's the worst part of all of this is stinks because everyone seems to stink. And you can't blame play calling because, play calling would indicate that you didn't have 4 touchdowns dropped. Like, you can't have the touchdowns dropped and then blame the play calling, because if you can't have both things. Obviously the touchdowns are there if y'all dropping them. So who's to blame? And it just feels like coaching, everybody, players, personnel, like everybody got to go because it all stinks. And you can't say, and everything's connected to everything else. But I thought they should have leaned into the freaking run game with Tank early. And that's whether ECM was healthy or not healthy, because I just thought that was the balance that you needed to have to control the game. Have these 9-minute, 8-minute, 10 plus play yard drives, and generally they did that while still struggling in the red zone. Can I just give you this series?
Sure.
You get an opening series of the game when the Jaguars get a field goal. They should have had 7. You get a first down. You get a false start by Brendan Strange on 3rd and 1. Still somehow find. You still find a way to get the first down with a Christian Kirk, a 7-yard catch. Cool. First down. False start. Gabe Davis. Run by Dearness Johnson instead of Tank Bixby or Travis Etienne. This is, again, first series of the game. Incomplete pass. Drop touchdown pass by Gabe Davis. Kick a field goal. That's a good drive for the Jaguars. That's a good drive. They just can't get out of their own way, man. Like, and again, I feel bad for the offensive coordinators, but they're also coaches. So What do you do when your team just cannot do the right thing on the field? And I would love to criticize the play calling again with the run game. But again, if you're dropping touchdown passes, how do I blame you for saying you called a good play? They just suck. What do you do there?
I mean, coach certainly can't say that on the mic post game. That's a fact.
You should.
Well, hey, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back. I want to talk about this defense in this game, and then we're going to finish up the show, getting into more of what the Jags do going forward. On Tour in the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton.
EDO Beard Butter and EDO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off all these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back on Touring AFC South with your host, Mike Patton, and we got the Duval dive, and we're diving into the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. Now, we finished going to break talking about the offense and the issues there, but defensively, there definitely is some issues going on there. You know, Ryan Nielsen was brought in as the defense coordinator. You know, hey, he's going to make the defense better. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. There is issues about. Now, I will say there is an injury there for Oluwakin. I did make sure I pronounced his name correctly.
You nailed it.
Oluwakin. He definitely has been out for a while, so he's definitely being shown to be missed a lot. But it isn't just all him that's being missed. I mean, of course, you know, looking at the secondary, Caleb Williams goes 23-29, 226 yards, 4 TDs. He had one interception, like you mentioned. You know, Mr. Cisco, he wasn't incomplete on that play. He was complete there. But you know, the Bears also running the ball effectively against them as well. 29 carries, 152 yards to a 5.2 yard per carry average. I mean, is there anything that they are doing correctly over there? Any bright spot that you can think of from this defense based off the numbers I just gave you?
Trayvon Walker. I mean, the kid's doing his job. And as much as people want to talk about him as a bust, he is not.
Listen, he's definitely not a bust.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you like Aiden Hutchinson better, what he's doing, which, you know, prayers to that kid for that injury the other night. That was gross. I feel bad for him. Yeah. I feel bad for the Lions. I feel bad for anybody who's an Aiden Hutchinson fan. Like, as a lover of football, I hated seeing that happen to him. I'll get that out there too. But Trayvon Walker is a good football player, and he's progressing as you'd like to see, whereas his counterpart on the other side seems to be on a milk carton at the moment after getting his money. But, you know, I mean, you and I have talked about that at length on the Duval dive, Travis. What can I say? So, I mean, that's the biggest bright spot for me.
I'm probably going with the run defense. The run defense, like, they started the game much better than they ended. I mean, they ended up giving up 91 yards on the ground to DeAndre Swift, and that was bad. But what was worse was giving up 56 yards in carries to Caleb Williams in the first half of the game. So the Jaguars right now are the worst in the National Football League at, you know, yards giving up on the ground to quarterbacks because they play so much man-to-man defense. If you get past that line of scrimmage, it's off to the races, and they played a few quarterbacks who got wheels, unfortunately. So because of that, it kind of tanks their ability to stop the run, or it tanks the numbers, tanks the stats as far as their ability to stop the run. They're 11th in the league in rushing yards per game with 113.3, but again, they're averaging giving up 40 yards on the ground to quarterbacks. That's it. That means they're doing really good at stopping running backs from running the ball. They just think at stopping anyone else from doing it. Receivers, quarterbacks alike.
Oh boy. And they still do have a few running quarterbacks that they have to face as well. A few quarterbacks that can run, I should say, that they have to face.
Oh no, they got a gauntlet coming up though. Oof.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They do not have Flacco every week. That is correct, General. Yes.
But of course, like I mentioned earlier, Kyle, before I stopped you earlier in the show, we got to talk about the comments of Mr. Cisco. He went to Drew Hill and he came back with some words. I don't know. That was a bad one, I know. But basically, he talked about essentially players quitting and him seeing players quitting on the field. And he was talking about himself as well. I'm just like sitting there, you're in the sixth game of the season. You just finished it.
Was he talking about himself as well? Or did he have to say that because he realized it came across the wrong way? If I don't say I'm talking about myself too.
It kind of seemed like he was trying to include himself in it. And I'm not sure if he's trying to either include himself in it or he's talking about himself being in that number as well. But either way, it just sounds bad. It sounds bad that he's basically talking about players going 1, 2, 3 Cancun, and it ain't even halfway through the season.
If I rewatched that play this morning, the Cole Kmet middle of the field touchdown is the one that a lot of people are pointing to, saying that Devin Lloyd was loafing on the play. I mean, he was the main person that busted the coverage because that was his zone, that was his area as the linebacker in that area. And Andre Cisco gets stiff armed, but at least he's stiff armed trying to hold on to the man's ankle, trying to make a play. Monteric Brown is actually running. Seems to be at least legitimately giving a good faith effort on trying to make it to the guy before he gets into the touchdown. And you look at the rest of the secondary. Nobody else is running. Everybody else is walking. They halfway talking to each other. Them boys out there for a stroll. And so they're not wrong to say Lloyd might have been kind of loafing. Well, I ain't parsing no language. F that. He was loafing. He was loafing. And if you have a loaf tape, like if you've ever played high school football, college football, you watch film with the rest of the team, you know that they have this on the big screen. Everybody's in the room, and he's like, "Hey, look at this. What is this?" And the coach is pointing that with the red pointer. What are you doing here? There's 0% chance that they're not doing that to 3 or 4 players on the field on that individual play. And I haven't even made it through my full rewatch yet. That's on BigCatCountry.com by the time you see this. But yes, I'm looking. That's actually what I'm looking for. I'm actually going to go through the tape and just take a look and see how often do you see these loafs taking place? Because I've seen a few plays. One Chad Muma tackle that was just like, dude, what is this? But I'm looking to see just how often you see that because again, Cisco is the safety. He's on the back end. He's seeing guys when it's like, dude, what the heck is that? And I'm sure that there's something there.
Well, and you asked the question of why in the 6th game does he do it, General? It's a good point. I'll put a few factors together in my head that I think are going on. For one, you're already struggling throughout the year. That's a thing. And maybe there's some frustration that this Jaguars team could just as easily be 3-something, right? The way that they should have won the Dolphins game back when they were still at full strength. No disrespect to Tua Tagovailoa, but that's just the facts of the case. The Dolphins were healthier then. And the Browns game, Dearness Johnson's error to take a touchdown off the board, I think that's an element. I think him getting an interception, and as a guy who's kind of de facto a captain of the defense, he's not officially the captain. That's obviously Foye, who's a force of nature. I appreciate you acknowledging him. He doesn't get enough acknowledgement in general. No, that's not a pun. But with all of that, he feels the need, I think, to step in and be a leader and call somebody out. And on a game where he has an interception after they lost at what's supposed to be their home away from home, by the way, remember, London's supposed to be their house, right? All of those factors, I think, come in. And when you watch that as a leader of this team, who's also, by the way, trying to campaign in his own way to be the next defender extended after Tyson Campbell and Josh Hines-Allen have gotten theirs, this is the kind of move you make. And if you're trying to set a spark by going into the media to do it, that's a strategy. Is it good or not? Will it work or not? Separate conversation. But to answer the question, I think that was kind of the mentality in him doing it. I don't necessarily dislike it either, if I'm being honest about it.
But it lets you know that he's that they're out of ideas. When you're going to the public,
Yeah.
at that point, that is the last straw. That's saying.
Doesn't one in fact say that already, though, bro?
I mean, they had players only meetings 3 weeks ago. Like that's where we were.
Wow.
They were already having the players only meetings then.
Great point.
And that didn't solve anything. Like they got the Colts victory and it calmed people down for a week, but that didn't change. Well, I say calm fans down for a week.
Bradley got the Colts.
Hey,
we had that conversation.
Correct.
I'll say this. One guy that can go in this locker room and change a few things, I think Trayvon Walker could be that guy. Hear me out. This is. I know it's a little.
All right, I get you. I'm curious.
Interesting.
Go in that locker room, talk about how we played, be mad about it, and say anybody says they want to say we did this, and another. You can come find me in this locker room. We're gonna duke it out.
But
lay hands on people.
But the problem is, I think that would work if this was truly about effort. If this was truly about guys not willing to put their backs on the line, their livelihood on the line, their everything on the line. I don't think that's what this is, though. And I want to be real clear on this because we've been hearing this for weeks. And Kyle's my witness. I've had individual direct conversations with players personally that said off the record that they had no belief in the offensive coaching staff. And that's weeks ago. I mean, we're talking week 2, week 3. And this was conversations that were happening back in the offseason. So this is not like new information. It was kind of one of those, we're going to wait and see for the success, and we're going to wait and see what happens. But that it's kind of like when you have an old ex-girlfriend that cheated on you and you getting back together, and it's like, I don't trust you, but I'm gonna wait and see for you to mess this up. And that's kind of what it became as far as the trust in the offensive staff. So if you're in a locker room full of guys on the offensive side who already don't believe in the offensive coordinator, in the head coach's plan to actually rectify these issues that we had in 2023, or maybe you don't have the confidence in the general manager to get you the players to do that, then if I put my back on the line in a literal way, I'm gonna be on that little wait and see mode and just be like, all right, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. But at the end of the day, I don't know if this is gonna be like I'm ready to check out, if that makes sense. I'm prepped to check out. And that's kind of what I see materializing here. The defensive guys, when they were playing, didn't seem like they were giving up on the field. It just was one of those things where they were just getting beat because scheme, they didn't have the guys, whatever it may be. But the offensive side is the whole conversation, basically, until this week. This was the first time I can objectively say, oh, no. This was guys loafing on the field. And I can show you plays where that was this. All right, this is the point where they're making business decisions because they don't, one, believe in the offensive staff, but also they don't believe in the future of the team.
I mean, are we going to be naming names on Wednesday in the Duval Dive, Travis? Just throwing it out there.
Why would I do that? No, the name is Doug Pederson. Everything else don't matter.
See, I like that. You're calling out the Duval Dive YouTube channel. I won't get the bell out again, but like there's a short about that Duval Dive YouTube channel. There you go.
Yes, like and subscribe.
There we have it. Please subscribe, people. Yeah, I would say this, and of course in Jacksonville, I've definitely been a name that people have talked pretty not highly about because of my thoughts on where the Jacksonville Jaguars should finish this season. Well, it seems like I wasn't quite far off from what I thought in that aspect. Yeah. But, do I like to see this? No, I don't like to see this.
Lies. You are just bathing in this like a vat of milk. Like you are right. All over it. He's like, yes, I'm right, and you were. And I'm gonna take a second to pause you while trying to pretend that you are not ecstatic about being right to tell you that, yeah, man, you were right, and that needs to be acknowledged at bare minimum because again, every so often, I'll tell someone that, hey, I don't understand why GMs don't hire people outside of the organization to tell them things because maybe you are too close to this, that you're missing the mark. Maybe, and I'll own this. Maybe I was too close to this and I missed the mark. And what I thought this team would be because I had too much confidence in this coaching staff that haven't earned it. Maybe I will acknowledge that and say that, hey, you were right in that preseason projection because I thought I was being pessimistic by saying this team was going to be a 9-win team. And whoo, boy, was I wrong on that. Like, you earned those flowers. You deserve those flowers. And I would give you that credit for saying that you were right in what this Jacksonville Jaguars team is and looks like it's going to be. I was also right about Will Levis, though. That man's trash. But I do understand your point.
So 34 minutes and then
I knew he was going to slide that in.
34 minutes. That's when you get your trophy. Cut it off right at 35 if you're looking to commemorate this, General. There you go.
Well, I will say this, hey, I wasn't necessarily right about everything in the division. I did have the Titans finish second in the division, which that doesn't look like that's
you were too close. So, that's it. You were too close.
But
can you take it off the board at this point with Anthony Richardson being hurt again? Who knows, man? The bottom portion of this conference is still a mystery. I'm going to throw that.
Yes, it's basically the Houston Texans on top of the mountain, and everyone else trying to figure out how to climb the mountain. And they're trying to climb the mountain, and the mountain is steep, but they're trying to climb it with skis right now. So that's what it looks like right now at this point. Which that's a pretty rough climb right there. I mean, you just slide back down every single time. So we're going to take another quick commercial break, and I'm going to talk about these free agents and then also where they go from here on touring the AFC South.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, we're back on touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton, talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars with Kyle Nash, Travis Holmes. Now, this offseason, of course, was supposed to be an offseason of, adding different pieces to take themselves to the next level. And, we've talked about how the offense performed and what, basically the outlook is so far to go over the rest of the season. We didn't really have to go into that to kind of understand the outlook is not necessarily the greatest at 1-5. And, there's a little doom and gloom. But I will have a little bit of talk about a particular man in the front office, but we're going to get to that in a second. But these free agents that they brought in, of course, everyone was thinking, okay, a little bit of changes, maybe, not as many changes needed. And then, of course, we're going to add these in and we're going to be all right. These changes were Mitch Morse, Gabe Davis, Eric Armstead, Darnell Savage. Now Savage, I will say this, he hasn't necessarily lived the Savage life on the football field this year. Eric Armstead, the little bear crawling has gotten mentioned online a lot. I was amazed. I'm looking at this. I'm like, okay. I'm kind of, I will say I'm kind of shocked by his play. I thought he would be more of a factor at this point. Gabe Davis, he's being the Gabe Davis I thought he would be. And Mitch Morse, there's a reason they let him go in Buffalo. And I think they're kind of seeing it now in Jacksonville. So what are your thoughts on these free agents and maybe some of the thoughts of what they came in to be and the thinking they were going to be as opposed to what they are actually showing on the field?
Man, listen, let me jump in first and handle this O-line thing there, Travis.
Thank you.
I appreciate you calling out Mitch Morse as somebody of question there. And listen, I think a lot of the reason Buffalo let him go was, in short, he's an injury risk. He's had a lot of concussions, and being in the chaotic scheme that is trying to block for a quarterback who is it's different when it's just a straight up scat style of run, something you more see from Lamar Demetrius Jackson. He's not necessarily expecting a lead block when he escapes. When you have a bruiser type runner guy like a young Ben Roethlisberger or a Josh Allen, it's a lot harder because knowing when he's going to do what he does is a lot more difficult, and you have to be out in front of that and still read his mind somehow. And also, it's a lot more dangerous for you because when Josh runs, there's a lot less protection and you're it. This is why he got injured so much. Trevor is much more of a conservative runner in that he doesn't run as often as Josh. He's good for probably 1 first down a game with his legs, but he's more of a scat style runner too. I'm not saying he's as fast as Lamar Demetrius Jackson. Let's not get stupid, but he is deceptively fast. I don't care how goofy he looks with his helmet off. The punchline's this, though. He was still an upgrade over Luke Fortner. Was he the answer? No. Did the Jags front office seem to think he was? Yes, and that's the real problem here. And I think with Gabe Davis, the other element here too, bringing in more about blocking, I think he was more involved to be kind of a second guy to help block the edge because too often last year, once it was predicted that Luke Fortner and company in the interior, and we're going to leave Ezra Cleveland off to the side. That's still a tricky analysis. I need more on. Travis could probably answer. You probably formed an opinion much stronger than me because, this team makes you drink. But the punchline's this. I think Gabe Davis was brought in more for a blocking option and not to replace Calvin Ridley, even though the crowd would have you think so, even though him picking number 0 made it worse for me to convince people that he wasn't meant to be a Calvin Ridley replacement. He was meant to replace Zay Jones. And I feel like that's kind of the best comparison. We talked about that a lot on the Duval dive, all that going on there too. And of course, listen, BTJ's the Calvin Ridley replacement, and I think he was successful there. But this is about free agents, and I think that's the two I would offer a little pushback on. I think the expectations were just too high for Gabe Davis. What the Jags paid for was a locker room guy to try to help and get things going, and we've seen healthy conversation between him and Trevor on the sideline, stuff that I think has been helpful. I think he's been that good leader, but when you have other fundamental issues, the question would be, we're talking about free agency acquisitions as the problem. I mean, does Ryan Nielsen count? I don't know, but it's a whole thing there where I feel like there's a lot of replacement issues that are being talked about. You mentioned Darnell Savage. I feel like injuries have hampered him, but having to reboot the entire defensive backcourt, mostly, except for a few pieces, is becoming more of a factor than we ever could have realized, I think. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Travis, take it from there, bro.
I mean, I somewhat agree with, for the most part, most things that Nash just laid down. I actually think Mitch Morse has been better than Nash gives him credit for. I mean, you were talking. He has been, as far as pass protection is concerned, literally, well, as far as a pass rush win rate for all guards and centers across the NFL, he is second in the league. Like, he has been up there as far as pass blocking is concerned. It's just when we started talking about run blocking, he's middle of the pack, but that's exactly who he was at Buffalo. So to Nash's original point, that's more of an injury risk, and he was getting up there in age, and they were trying to get cheaper because Josh Allen, the quarterback, his contract was starting hitting those Buffalo Bills books. It made total sense as far as
upgrade over Luke Fortner.
Still a significant upgrade as far as Luke Fortner.
He's definitely an upgrade. He's definitely an upgrade there. I just wasn't sold on. I
haven't been down on Mitch's signing at all. Ezra Cleveland extension it already looks like it was a great signing. It's because he's been playing significantly better than he played in 2023, which we knew he was coming off an injury in Minnesota. Cool. I have no issue with a lot of that. The main issue currently has been out of that free agency class was, Gabe Davis has not been good. And that takes a lot for me to say. You see that UCF jersey behind me. I am absolutely biased. I've said it in writing. I've said it on radio. I've been biased. If there's only going to be one guy on the Jacksonville Jaguars roster who I am biased to, it is going to be Gabe Davis. So it takes a lot for me to say, hey, man, this is obviously not working. That's a lot for me because it's not in every way. Like, if there's a 2-touchdown game, I didn't know you could have a 2-touchdown game and people be downing you so much, and this is it. 45 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I'm still looking like, man, get out the paint. Like, this is not it. Like, and that's really unfortunate because he does a lot of the dirty work that guys don't give him credit for. He is a lot like an upgraded Tim Jones, the Jacksonville Jaguars special team ace, who they basically bring in for rundowns and just does all the dirty work, does all the blocking things of that nature. But then I'll look back at the film on Tuesday and then just be like, well, dang, Gabe, even when they're run blocking, you loafing, bro. Like, block the corner, block the safety, block someone. The same thing last week on Tank Bigsby's touchdown run. He doesn't block the cornerback. He doesn't block the safety. And then there's a fumble at the 1 yard line, and he's trying to pick the ball up in the end zone, which he also misses. It was just a lot of, I'm not liking what I'm seeing from you effort-wise, and I know he's trying to fight through this injury that he had in preseason, but either you're healthy or you're not. I can only judge what you do on tape, and unfortunately, it's just not working right now, bro. And that's unfortunately where I am, but I don't have a problem with Darnell Savage's play right now. He was injured earlier throughout this season. He was injured in preseason even. And we've only truly gotten, two, a little bit over 2 games, like 2.5 games of actual play to judge him on. And I didn't think he played necessarily badly. He just had like 1 or 2 bad plays out of all the games combined. Like I'm fine with that. It was just not an impressive free agency class across the board, because if you were to say this is my free agency class, look at everything we brought in, most guys are going to be like, yeah, that's fine. Like, these guys, they don't move the needle. They're just guys. Like, they're Jags. They're just guys.
I see what you did there, Travis.
Yeah, I mean, they're just guys. Like, Devin Duvernay was fine, and now he's on IR. He was a solid for a kick returner, but now we know that most of the kickoffs are going through the back of the end zone. So what are we talking about? Across this whole free agency class, you basically didn't move the needle. You, for the second offseason in a row, essentially, you sat on your hands and you basically are the same, and you're just blamed everything on the offensive line and Luke Fortner and said, all right, we brought Mitch Morrison. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. That's hubris. That's and I don't know if it's hubris on Trent Baalke or if that's hubris on Doug Pederson, but that's hubris somewhere, because obviously y'all need better people. You need better people. You need a Mick Mittens in your ear just telling you, like just telling you that this is not right and you probably should be countering to go a different way, because obviously you were too, as I said earlier, maybe you were a little too close to this and you need an outsider opinion on this. You need an EVP, and that's what the Jacksonville Jaguars need. An executive vice president to like tell them what to do.
That was a heck of a spiel, man. See what I did there?
I'll say this when it comes to Trent Baalke.
Here you go.
I've seen this movie before.
Oh.
I've seen this movie before, and it didn't end well. It was a very bad ending. It was like an exciting film that had a terrible ending. That is what you get with the Trent Baalke experience. And hence,
I could not have guessed that by his pass.
I tried to explain that to some Jaguars fans that told me that, oh, well, Trent's this and Trent's that and Trent's this. And I'm like, wait for it. It's coming.
Well, people want to give him credit, though. People want to give him credit because he deserves credit for the finally giving the Jacksonville Jaguars a drafted, to be specific, a drafted realistically top 5 to top 10 receiver. And I think I don't think it's a hot take giving BTJ that kind of a label. Brian Thomas Jr., the rookie receiver from LSU. Like, I don't think it's over the top to give him that, projected ceiling right now. But with that being said, you also have to then acknowledge all the draft picks that he has drafted with those projected high ceilings that just haven't been. There's still questions going to be on the Mason Smith pick. There's going to be so many questions on that whole 2022 draft class. I mean, for the most part. And then you have to get into the whole conversation that Kyle and I just had yesterday about the coaching hires that Trent Baalke has made throughout his career. And boy, it does not look good. Like, all these things that go into evaluating who you are, Trent Baalke. And it's not just to say, hey, I got this one great wide receiver, so everything's great, because fans love receivers and quarterbacks. Can you build a roster?
Yeah. Let me build on the movie you're talking about, because what the people may not know or can forget, because we cover teams that you and I are not necessarily fans of. You and I are both a member of the 49er faithful, Mike Patton. I am personally documenting.
Don't tell everybody. I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I know. Listen, don't forget anyway. That's why I'm good with it, bro. I'm right on that. But no, but listen. Travis brings up the BTJ good pick that's making people forget that we talked about on the Duval Dive Live on Sunday. What he also got me to realize after the mic was off, when we were examining the potential of Trent Baalke hiring his sixth coach, he's still living on the back of Jim Harbaugh's success. The guy, he got booted out of the building, much to the joy of people in Ann Arbor, but nonetheless. And
it's the only good coach he's hired.
Living on that reputation has carried him. What was he with Urban Meyer? Travis 5-2-11. 2-11. Thank you. I remembered the wrong number. 5-11 with Jim Tom Sula or Mike Tom Sula.
Hey, Kyle, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Urban Meyer remembered the wrong number too, but go ahead.
I see what you did there. I love every minute of it. 2-11. 2-15. Excuse me, 14, because it was still 16 season games back there with Chip Kelly. 5-11 with Mike Tom Sula. The worst season he had with Jim Harbaugh was an 8-8. And I'll grant you, got a couple winning seasons with Doug Pederson, sure, but now he's on pace for a losing record overall, especially with
19-21 currently.
Thank you, sir. So the numbers are lining up. You are living on the 44-19 that Jim Harbaugh brought you before you went all Jerry Krause, Chicago Bulls back in the day, and thought you were a bigger part of it than Michael Jordan. Trent Baalke thought he was a bigger part of it on Jim Harbaugh and San Francisco, and now it's gone on so long the city of Jacksonville is paying for it. Isn't that hell of a note? Take that, Baalke fans.
Boy. All I can say is you can have him.
We didn't want him in the first place. Let me speak for all of. Let me speak for all of Duval. Sans Shad Khan. We didn't want him in the first place. When Trent Baalke was hired, I said then, would any NFL actually hire him as a general manager right now if the Jacksonville Jaguars did not? And I could not think of one. Of maybe, I don't know, the Carolina Panthers. Like what other organization can I name that's just so bad down? They're so down bad that they would actually make that hire. And that's all I could think of, because at the end of the day, with that record that he has, yes, you can say, hey, I've been a successful GM, and that's arguable in and of itself. It's just like all of it seemed weird, and then to have to handcuff that guy with Doug Pederson, you're not giving any of them a chance. So you have a coach right now who you have questions on whether or not he has an identity of what he wants his offense to be. We know he has questions on what he wants his defense to be, because he's going from a 3-4 to a 4-3, from a rookie head coach to a veteran head coach to zone scheme to a man scheme. So at this point, it just sounds like, hey, man, just give me the best guy and I'll figure it out. Forget the whole personnel side of that. Like, that means you're like, wait, what? How many years out do you have to be to even create a good defense personnel wise? If you're just skipping zone, you're skipping, alignment, you're skipping, you're changing how you're going to be calling that defense. And then you add the fact that your offensive side of the ball doesn't seem to have an identity. You don't seem to know what you want to do or what you even want from players. Then how do you draft that? So like you're handcuffing both of those guys together, and they're all just like winging this. We are in creative player mode. We are in creative franchise mode right now in Madden and on easy mode, and these boys still failing this, man. Like the basic stuff.
And I'll put a bow on it with this, Travis. There's one person in particular that agreed with you before it was cool, and that's Byron Leftwich, who refused to take the coaching job, allegedly. He's the coach,
and he is sitting on a bench, and people in Jacksonville are clapping about it. How, Sway? Y'all clapping, and I don't understand it, bro. I never understood it.
Oh, I understand
it. They're like, well, because Byron's not coaching anywhere. Well, why? You tell me why. Byron's not coaching anywhere. He going to be the same place that Doug Pederson going to be at the end of the season, on the couch. So what does that mean for the Jacksonville Jaguars? Not a doggone thing, because we can be hiring another coach, man. They're just so happy about that playoff appearance in 2022 that involved all these comebacks when Trevor Lawrence is not even running the offense for the head coach that you brought in, because he's all hurry up and high tempo offense at that point. What are we doing, man? Football IQ is on zero, bro.
Oh boy. But I want to finish it the episode with this question. What do you want to see from this team going down the stretch? Well, it's a two-part question. What do you want to see from this team down the stretch? And how much do you think this is the end for the Baalke-Pederson duo?
Yeah, I'll take the ball first. Sure. I mean, what do I want to see? I want to see a mid-season jettisoning of Baalke if I'm a member of the Duval Devout. And the only issue with that is I don't think Doug Pederson is a bad coach per se, but I don't think he's the right coach for this space. It would be a smooth bit of irony if they actually ended up hiring Mike Vrabel to coach this team.
Jacksonville fans have been talking to me about him. They've been asking me questions.
I think he's the right temperament. And listen, at this point, if you think this is the same kind of energy from 2023, and Travis made this point brilliantly, months ago on the 2022 team being the team that should have gone to the next level, to the AFC Championship game even, which at the time, I'll grant, I didn't see. He kind of pointed me that way, and I'm like, it's not terrible. It's not a terrible point. But this is not 23 vibes where it was always the Jags it was always the Jags. Well, what happened was they had always done what Jags had done that season and this. And I think the landing zone is you need that hard edge guy, because the word on Doug Pederson, if you haven't heard it yet, is he's just a little too lax, a little too soft, a few too many things slide. And the reason why it worked in Philly is because his coaches and surrounding staff were incredibly intense. And when that's going on, having a lighter coach kind of balances things out. However, when you're in a space where everybody's light and your offensive coordinator, by all accounts, seems to be your clone, then who's keeping the humans in order? In a tough space like a pro football space, trying to find places to where you can get your energy right or keep your headspace good leads humans in a tough space like that to find places to relax and pull back. Humans in that tough a space where the grind is constant. Listen, something drives you, Mike Patton, to continue to make this show a fantastic product and all your products fantastic. And something pushes you. And sometimes that something has to be your head coach when no one else is there. And Doug Pederson does not appear to be that guy. That's kind of what I'm putting together.
Yeah. Generally, I'll agree with that. Like, it sounds like Doug wants to be that harder guy this year, but anyone who's ever had a parent who's not very all right, so if you're in a two-parent household, you will have a parent that's just real fire and brimstone, that's real disciplinarian, and then you'll have the other parent that's real love, it's all love, baby, and it's all soft and it's all cuddly and everything else, and it's cool. And what happens when that parent that's all soft and cuddly becomes hard? Half the time you don't believe them. You don't believe that's who they are, because you can't pull that back. Like, that's who you, if this is who you always are, this cuddly, this soft, this motivational, this mental person, as far as how you coach, as far as how you scheme, as far as how you want to be this, as far as being this player's coach. And then this season in 2023, now you want to be this fire and brimstone, this throwing guys under the bus, this is my offense, this is my way or the highway guy. That don't work. And it don't work with children, and it don't work with adults, because we're all humans and we're all very consistent on this. We don't believe you, man. You need better people. Like, we don't trust that this is who you actually are. So if you are that fire and brimstone guy, more like maybe a Ryan Nielsen, who was that high energy, energetic guy, and you want to pull back and be more sensitive, that normally can work, because that's who you are, and people appreciate that reprieve of being who you are. But unfortunately, it sounds like these guys aren't hearing that message anymore, and this is kind of just where we are. It just sounds like you just talking, bro. And even Doug is even saying, hey, man, they're practicing well, they getting it, they seem to be getting it at practice, and then they just don't when it's game time. Yeah, because the bullet's flying. When the bullet's flying, they ain't hearing that message no more.
What I hear you saying, Travis, is that Doug should be pressed to find an OC who's tailored to his style.
I mean, that's the problem. But I got what you're putting down. But no, that's the problem. It's more about the fact that he had with Jim Bob Cooter. He had he's lost three offensive. Nick Holtz? He's lost three offensive, three passing game coordinators in 3 years. Like, he's had outside opinions in the room that kind of helped them mold this thing into something that was a little bit better, something that was a little bit more flexible. You had better brains in the room, basically, to make this thing a little bit more diverse.
Also in Philly, he had 3 Hall of Fame offensive linemen that'll hide a whole butt ton of issues, but we can have that conversation another time, gentlemen.
Yeah, so it's everything, and that's the part that at the end of all of it, this is the part that where we land this plane is, it's everybody, it's all of them. It's the scheme. Yes, the scheme is problematic, and then when it's not problematic, then the players fail it. But we got to get to that point first, because half the games it is the scheme, and then when it's not the scheme, the players are failing, which still leads you back to coaching. And when it's not the players failing, then it's the players aren't good enough, which leads you back to the GM, which then it's just like it's all bad. And if it's all bad from top to finish, and you can't even identify, it's so bad that you can't even identify where it's bad. then the whole reason you brought Doug Pederson in, the whole reason you brought Trent Baalke in is already a moot point. It's already like the opportunity cost conversation is already out the door. You brought these guys in to give Trevor Lawrence a great base to build on top of. We've now lost that base. We are back to Urban Meyer's standard of time. And if that's truly where we are as far as giving him a base and trying to figure out who he is in that process, then you got to restart it. There's no benefit to continuing to do this.
Yes, definitely. I understand there. As we've gone through this episode, I would like to say this has definitely been the Teal Haze episode. You know, Purple Haze with,
I saw
it. With Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, with Teal Haze with this one, because boy, oh boy, it's been a lot of smoke.
I will give that I will give that a thumbs up with my left hand just to tribute it. There you go.
There we go. So, yeah, well, we don't want to end this episode with doom and gloom talking about Jacksonville and 1-5. We don't want to end the episode like that. We want to have a fun time. We want to talk about a game. 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. Both of you ready?
Let's bring the heat.
Cool.
All right, cool. We're going to keep it all a little football this episode. All right, beating the Colts at home or beating the Titans anywhere? Which one would satisfy Jags fans probably the most?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to take this one. If we're talking about the next upcoming Colts game at Everbank, I think that one means more to the Jags because that's 10 straight Colts losses at Everbank. I think the Jags would love to hold that 10 up over their head.
Yeah, if we're talking next year, then sure. Yeah, the Colts game at Everbank, sure. But anytime you can beat the Titans, I think is worthwhile. As long as we can still keep that first draft pick, then yeah. I'm here for it. If we can beat the Titans and still get the first draft pick, I think that's the ideal situation for Jacksonville right now because I think folks are out on 2024. I mean, at this point, wins they're not helping you, and at best, they're hoping they're keeping your general manager and your head coach for sure in Jacksonville because we all don't believe that Shadcott knows football at this current moment in time.
You hear that, fans? Travis is cheering for you for out of conference games. Boom.
Yes, that is facts. So yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. But I have no thoughts on what to view from this team moving forward other than hopeful losses.
We're trying to escape doom and gloom. Come on, Travis.
This is positive. This is positive for the future.
Okay.
All right, we got Eric Armstead or Savage. Who's in your opinion, who's been the free agent pick that you're just like,
For me, it's Eric Armstead being disappointing, not just for bear crawling, but for the fact that he's being completely misutilized and has been capitulated to by Ryan Nielsen. This whole rotation thing of letting him play DN because he wants to, that wasn't why you're supposed to be here, bro, in my opinion. And I love that they got him at the discount. As a 49er guy, it was sad to see him leave that confine, but I know why they did it. Great to talk to him. One of my last interviews there at camp over there in Duval, but yeah, I think he's the more disappointing free agent for sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's even arguable. I don't think it's a competition. I don't think it's close. It's definitely Armstead, and yes, he was coming off of an offseason surgery. We get that, so they seem to have been doing this whole load management thing with him, where he never gets 50% of snaps. Like, so he's already in that. He's always in that 40 to 49% of snaps every game, and most of those snaps end up being rotationally at edge and internally. So the whole reason that Jaguar fans, were excited about his signing was because they thought he was going to be playing in the interior D line, kind of where you made your name. And he's just been doing this whole rotation thing where he may be paying, 10, 15 snaps a game, on the interior and then the rest at edge. And it's just like, we don't need that. We need interior pressure. Can you help us with that? No? Okay, cool. Well, thank you for coming, but that's not worth the money that we just paid you. Like, it's very disappointing, especially when your defense is kind of struggling right now, stopping the pass.
He's not a pass rush defensive end. I don't know where or why he thought he was going to have some kind of resurgence in his career. Is lining up at the defensive end. No.
It feels like it was a promise, and it feels like it might have been a promise or a part of the conversation when he said he was coming here. I have to believe that. Because I don't see any other way I think that must have been what it was.
Yeah, well, the great thing they could have done on that one is say, hey, you can play defensive end when you come here, and then switch to a 3-4 and put him as 3-4 defensive end. Could have got away with it at that point. Let's see. All right. Next question I got. You got one quarterback you're taking, Dak Prescott or Joe Burrow?
Oh, it's Joey Burr, as long as he's healthy. Which is, but I mean, yeah, even on his most injured day, so long as he's playable, I got Joey Burr. Dak is hidden behind a really good offensive line for a long time in Dallas, and I think he's still capitalizing on those flowers. Has a lot of fun eating out of the apple barrel, but when it comes time to challenge a good team like the 49ers, it doesn't go so well. Anybody else notice that? I mean, listen, if you love first-round exits, stick with them, Dallas. That's my whole thing.
I do believe that it's closer than folks want to give it credit for, though. And I think that's also the interesting part. No, I do. I don't believe that the difference between those two is so significant that it shouldn't be worth the conversation. But I probably would err on the side of Joe Burrow, just because I think he's better at the crunch time, at those crunch moments when everything gets tight, when the lemon booty starts to become present all throughout the audience in the stadium. I do believe at that point that you're probably should go with the guy who's a better closer, and I do believe that that's Joe Burrow. Between the two, we've seen too many opportunities where Dak just hasn't risen to that occasion, and you can put whatever reason you want to put around it.
A Duval dive appearance is not complete until Travis references the lemon booty. That's the real deal here, right?
I was gonna say word to Bomani Jones on that one, because he says it every
that guy.
week.
Dude, I've been listening to Bomani since his SB Nation days, when he used to write at SB Nation, 13, 14 years ago. So like that's how far back me and Bomani go.
It is my goal to get him on my show one time. It is my goal. I've gotten Jamel on the show. I haven't got Michael Smith on the show, which I actually was on their show with Brother from Another. But
that still counts.
I do want to get Bomani Jones on the show. It would be pretty comical to hear him talk about the AFC South, because he probably has no interest in talking about the AFC South. Boy, oh boy,
so bad.
He does. He clowns the AFC South a lot. So,
I'm just saying.
well, the AFC South hasn't necessarily given him something to eat crow on. So, at this point, hey, Deshaun Watson or Daniel Jones, which one would you take as your starting quarterback today?
God.
Ooh.
Can I have?
Can I also point out that Daniel Jones, if you watched the Sunday Night Football game, on a few passes, big time third downs or fourth down plays, the guy was there open. He just waited to throw the football until he was covered. So I just want to throw that out there. But go ahead and make your choice which one you would like.
I don't have enough information to understand which poison I'd rather take, General. Like, I'd like to know if I'm allergic to penicillin before I know which poison to take here, right? Like, good gravy. You I'll go ahead and go with Danny Dimes, because his contract isn't as bad, and I won't be morally questioned for having Deshaun Watson or having Danny Dimes on my team. So you found the one scenario where my answer is, in fact, Daniel Jones. Congratulations, General.
I mean, I don't think there's any argument you could make for this answer to be Deshaun Watson. I just don't see it. Like, Lord, I gotta go with Daniel Jones. I mean, I just don't see. I would love to be a contrarian here, just to be like, Watson's better, but no, I don't know one thing that he is better at, other than maybe, being on one of those adult websites. Like, I got nothing football related.
Hey, they aren't adult websites. They're massage parlors. I'm kidding. But
talk to that New England Patriots owner. Yeah.
Listen, you leave Bob Kraft out of this. I mean, you're right. Leave him out of this. We got enough to deal with.
Look, I had a joke for that one, but hey, this is a kids watch this program, man. All right, last one: lose out or win 6 or 7 games for the Jaguars.
Are you saying predictions?
No.
I'm just saying. Would you rather them lose out or win their 6 or 7 games for the rest of the season?
I know. I won't say what I think Travis's answer is, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be right, and I don't want it to be a spoiler. But if I'm a member of the Duval Devout, I would say lose out. If I'm covering this team and want something positive to happen to make my life a little bit easier as I simultaneously cover UCF for the black and gold banneret, Yes, please. 6 or 7 wins for the love of Pete. Am I being selfish saying that? You bet your entire rear end. But listen, at the end of the day, do you want to watch Trent Baalke toilet away another top draft pick? I sure don't. So please, 6 or 7 wins, get him fired, and then the next guy can go from round 1 at the top overall pick. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get 6 or 7 wins and 4 of those, and all 4 of those, 6 or 7 wins are AFC South wins, then you have a chance to actually win the AFC South. Then sure, I can go with that. Like, I can even get down with that as long as hopefully Shad would still fire everybody. We know that ain't happening. Like, that's such a tightrope to be walking, man. Come on, I'm not crazy. This man don't know nothing about football. But overall, yeah, I'm probably gonna go with the lose out. Get me the best pick, and hopefully maybe praying to get the clean house that we've been praying for over a decade in Jacksonville.
And the funny thing about it is, first overall pick, more than likely there will be quarterback talk, which is funny to me. I'm just saying they're more likely to be quarterback talk.
Wait a minute.
Yes, me and my partner, you take the ball on this one. I don't necessarily have to be the one who's hunting for every answer. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. You saying like you talking like Travis Hunter is not a conversation piece. And let me be clearer. Let me be clear on what I'm saying. I don't believe the Jaguars will ever even think about drafting a quarterback. But if they could get a king's ransom for that top draft pick and trade down in the top 5, trade down to 7, trade down somewhere like that. Oh, no, you do that. You do that for a team that also has no identity, that you're probably having a new coach come in, that you'll probably have a new GM come in. You give them that king's ransom and you put them into a situation like, I don't know, Cleveland when they traded, all those picks for Watson, or the Lions when they traded, Stafford, and like all of these things, they helped recreate their organization.
Now, you were thinking. You were thinking along the same lines I was, of course. I threw the quarterback out when that went out there, just to be funny for a little bit,
That man's contract has not even hit the books yet. Like, there's no world.
He's not going anywhere.
Okay, we got you, Mike. It's all right.
He's not going anywhere, and
can we trade for Ben Johnson? Is that possible? Like, can we do that? Can we trade for Ben Johnson in the draft? Like, trading that number 1 pick, and can you give us like two first rounders and Ben Johnson? Like, can we do something like that? Like, I have to wonder.
I'll say this about Ben Johnson. Like Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator, but be careful about bringing in the great offensive coordinator as your head coach, because what I've noticed is happening is when you bring in an offensive coordinator or this great defensive coordinator as your head coach, the expertise that they have doesn't necessarily look the greatest for that team.
Right. It doesn't always translate.
Right. But that's 5 questions, 2 answers, and 1 choice. Both of you are off the hot seat. If you can or would like to, tell everyone where they can find you on social media. Whoever wants to go first, Kyle or Travis.
After you, champion.
I mean, you can find me. You can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, bigcatcountry.com. You can find, if you're looking to talk Jacksonville Jaguars, please like and subscribe us at the Duval Dive on YouTube, of course. And if you're looking to talk anything, Jacksonville Jaguars related or any other NFL team, I have, Inside the Pigskin and a few other podcasts that I'm also a guest on, throughout the week. Add me on Twitter, Travis D. Holmes. I'm very, very, very active, just talking about anything football related. Again, primarily the AFC South and exclusively the Jacksonville Jaguars, because why get your stuff from Bleacher Report and Yahoo and all these other garbage websites that just, they're just taking our information and just kind of putting it out there for the masses? Get it from the ground level, baby. Come on. Talk to us.
If they actually took your information, they would sound like they watched the games, unlike Emmanuel Outtro, right? Anyways, so not that I'm here to top Travis D. Holmes, but make sure you follow Travis D. Holmes on the socials. Get a hold of your life. That's where it's at. It ain't just the Jags that he talks about. It's just a lot of it, but follow Travis. Do yourself a favor. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, a student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings with the Fans First Sports Network covering the Jaguars, and sooner than later, the Orlando Magic. Check that out if you're an NBA fan, of course. And, of course, you happen to follow UCF at all or college sports in general. I cover UCF football and basketball with the Black and Gold Banneret. A fun time here coming up if you happen to be a fan of women's basketball as well. So TMS might be having that team on the rise for the first time in a while. So make sure you check that out. And of course, Student of the Game podcast Wednesday nights at 9. You can find that on the Huddle Up or Sartoba Media YouTube channels. And anything you don't catch on the Duval Dive YouTube channel that Travis talked about, you can get on any of your podcatchers. Just make sure you search out the Duval Dive to get any and all of that action. Thanks for having us aboard, gentlemen. Of course, until next time, class dismissed.
That's what I was waiting on. I knew it was coming. But all right, of course, thank you both for coming on. Of course, if you don't know, I am the host of the show, Mike Patton. This is Touring the AFC South. You can find it on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. We are also on YouTube at the Mike Patton Network. And of course, if you want to find me, Mike Patton, on social media, you can go on the artist formerly known as Twitter. Yes, I say the artist formerly known as Twitter. Word to Prince, one of the greatest artists of all time, at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82. You can also find me on Threads and Instagram at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. Want to thank you all for tuning in to episode 301 of Touring the AFC South. We're out. Peace.